Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs fans? It is a special in-person episode of 10 Things. I'm BJ Kissel with Hayley Lewis, and we're going to talk about probably the fact that Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl again for the fifth time in the last 6 years, which has never happened in the history of the NFL. There are lots of nuggets coming from this game, Hayley. There's a lot of ref talk. There's a lot of the discourses about crap that I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about, but we will just a little bit. But Chiefs 32-29 victory over the Buffalo Bills. We appreciate you for spending part of your day with us here at KC Sports Network. And as always, we'll go through 10 things that stood out or things that we found. Interesting little nuggets about this game, Hayley, but it's becoming too commonplace for us getting used to just knowing what to do, getting ready for AFC Championship games, and now the Super Bowl again. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of been ingrained, which is odd. Weird to expect those sort of things, and you don't ever want to take that for granted. We were talking about it earlier this week, the fact that, I mean, we're showing our privilege. We allude to these different things. But yeah, I'll say the one thing I did not enjoy was opening up my phone timelines today and going through the comments on Twitter, on social media, on TikTok, on everything, and just being like, okay, I got to close my phone. You can't play into it.
Yeah.
It's a loser's narrative.
It's discounting greatness. And it's annoying that everybody outside of Kansas City, I don't think, I had conversations around the Shrine Bowl with people that, could there ever be potentially another team to three-peat that isn't widely hated by everyone else that covers it? I don't think so. I don't think you can win as much knowing that in every NFL game there's calls that are going to go either way. There's always going to be things that the other side can complain about and blame. And now it's like ball spotting. It's become like the discourse.
Well, everyone's an expert after the fact.
They've got to fix all these things that have been going on in the NFL for decades that we've been talking about aren't a problem until the Chiefs are included in a playoff game at this point in what this dynasty stretch is all look like. It's infuriating at the same time.
Yeah.
I just don't care. Words shouldn't bother you, and it's something I've done a lot of like 4 years. Words aren't going to bother me about anybody says anything about personally or anything else, let alone a team, let alone a fan of another team that doesn't know our history, doesn't watch apparently football enough to know that these kinds of things happen all the time. And that part of it's annoying, but it's also just kind of, this is what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what every team is going to have to go through that has any level of consistent success in any sport right now. It's going to have to go through what Chiefs fans are going through right now.
For sure. It comes with the territory. I was even talking with a buddy this morning who lives in Boston, big Patriots fan, has grown up loving what they were able to do. And people try to say, oh, it's not like the Patriots. They're not winning the same way. And it's like, yeah, no, we're not sending scouts to go to other people's practices and record them and deflate balls. We're just, obviously paying the referees. It's a different narrative. Yeah. So it's always, they'll find a way. It comes with the territory. This is, I guess this is how it feels to be great. Like, are we famous?
17 one-score games, and it has to be a conspiracy. It can't just be, all right, the motto of what the Chiefs have gone through internally all year.
And I get the same thing with
the formula. They're saying that they have the formula. They know how to win close games. Everything that every high school coach, youth coach has praised about being good teammates, right? Doing the little things correctly. I don't think it gets enough attention how well the Chiefs are coached and all of that. And obviously we're biased and people aren't going to care because 31 other teams are sick of the Chiefs. And I understand that part of it.
Yeah,
I understand just
it would be
a non-Chiefs fan that just enjoys football, just being tired of the same conversation, watching Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are in every other commercial. Now they got the rest of their teammates on the commercials. It's beautiful for us, but also this is important. Like, we don't have to apologize for this. Like, don't have to feel bad talking to other people.
They were losers for 50 years.
Yeah, and no one cares.
They spent their time in the desert. Okay,
the complete other side of it, and yeah, I don't care. That's why you don't see me on social media a lot anymore, going back and forth. I just don't care. The only thing I got on social media with this time was to call bullshit on Adam Schefter, pretending that it wasn't very calculated what he did, and saying that I was just presenting the information. I was just stating the facts of what happened. No, it was slanted. literally put out information on Twitter, X, social media for your job. Like, you know how to do this. You know how you framed it. You already had the excuse built in before you ever posted that. You knew there was going to be backlash, and you knew what your response was going to be. And it's all completely disingenuous, which is the entire point from the beginning, is that it was disingenuous. No one's saying you can't cherry pick a fact on how many penalties, but as we've seen over the last 3 days, those penalties, when you watch the video of Patrick Mahomes getting clotheslined and completely taken out, they're not questionable calls. Like, it's completely egregious. And the fact that somebody of pretending to be a journalist at this point still putting out information like that, that's either clickbait or more calculated than that, either way, it leads to something that's not.
Yeah, I was disappointed, honestly. I really was. That's someone I tend to, look up to, someone who does a great job, I think. And for them to put out a narrative that I felt like was selling out was interesting. But to double down on it, and really defend yourself, like you said, he had a excuse in his back pocket. So,
yeah, I don't know what he could have said because it was set up from the beginning. But anyway, let's get into the 10 things.
But the Chiefs won?
But the Chiefs, 17 straight, one score. All right. Chiefs claim third consecutive Lamar Hunt trophy. Marks the 7th Super Bowl appearance in franchise history for the Chiefs now, going to face the Philadelphia Eagles in Super Bowl 59. And it ranks as the 6th most Super Bowl appearances in NFL history. And with back-to-back championships in the last 2 Super Bowls, the Chiefs become the first team in NFL history to make it to the Super Bowl with a chance to win a third straight. So even if they don't win, they're already, as far as the dynasty conversation, can say that they've done something that no other team in NFL history has ever done. You get that win. It is cemented. There is no question that no fan base has ever had it better.
Yeah.
Don't spend your time arguing with people who are disingenuous. They're not going to give you that credit. They're not going to. You know what? Yeah. That ship sailed.
It's crazy to think, though, when we talk about how many Super Bowls they've gone to since 2018 season when Patrick Mahomes took over as starter. Out of the 7 Super Bowl appearances, 5 of them were with Mahomes, and the regime that they created when Andy Reid came here, Spags came here, Travis Kelce. It's just incredible to see how quick it's come.
Yeah.
And how quickly they've been able to keep producing high caliber teams year after year with the different hits of adversity that they get, with different rosters. That's what I find the most impressive is no matter what they're handed, they're able to still get to the most elite games during the season. And that's more impressive to me, honestly. They don't have the same regime.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this, and I'm going to get all the years and games mixed up. I'm not good about this.
It's hard to, yeah.
But I remember the first Super Bowl win, even last year, the gauntlet they had to go through in the playoffs, going on the road and all of it. You had to beat teams that were set up differently. I think the first year was like Houston with Deshaun Watson and the playmakers that they had. And then you go face Derrick Henry and the Titans. Like, it's the run defense. It's a little bit of everything. And then you have to win a shootout against Buffalo and put points on the board. And like, you can't have a hole in your team anywhere because you have to be so prepared to face any sort of team that the Chiefs now can literally play any type of football game and win. And we were joking last night, like, they finally scored over 31 points. So the first,
which is wild.
It's crazy. But again, another 1-score victory. It was their 9th straight postseason win, which is tying for the 2nd longest streak of consecutive victories in NFL history in the postseason, trailing only the Patriots, who won 10 straight between 2001 and 2005. So if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, they'll tie the Patriots for the most consecutive wins in the playoffs. Now, Andy Reid has become the first coach in NFL history to record at least 20 postseason victories with 2 different franchises.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes also picks up his 17th postseason win, surpasses the great Joe Montana. Now he's only trailing Tom Brady in his 35, which is going to take him a while to catch up to, but just wild to see. Again, it's the quickness. That's what's most impressive, how quick it's come in his career. This much success.
Yeah, I'm going to go out of order here on our outline. We're going to go to talk a little bit about Patrick Mahomes because there are a lot of people. Everyone in that building deserves credit for where they are right now. And as we talk through this, he wants this to be given for everyone involved. Clark Hunt went and got Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that before. He flew to Philly. He cut off Andy Reid from going to Arizona at the airport hangar and had that it was supposed to be 2-3 hours and lasted 8 hours. Clark talked about it with Dustin Colquitt on his show earlier a couple weeks ago here on KCSN. But Clark gets credit for that. Andy Reid gets credit for the culture being established and winning. But what we're seeing now started with Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Like it's beautiful. It was putting two beautiful minds together, let alone the physical abilities Patrick Mahomes has. The way that he sees the game and the way that his brain works and the way that he motivates and the teacher and mentor that Andy Reid is. You talk to Andy Reid, you've been around him. He calls himself a teacher more than he would call himself a coach, because it's about teaching not the players necessarily only, but the coaches. Like, here's how we teach how to teach others. And he's so good at that. But again, all of this starts with Patrick Mahomes. And he registered a memorable AFC Championship performance, completing 18 of 26 for 245 yards with one passing touchdown. Good for a 111.9 passer rating. He had 11 carries for 43 yards and a pair of rushing touchdowns. Marks his 13th career postseason game with 100 or better passer rating, breaking a tie with Joe Montana for the second most 100 or more passer rating games in NFL history. Obviously trailing only Tom Brady, who had 19 of those. But as you mentioned, surpasses Joe Montana with his 17th victory. But as much as we talk about Patrick Mahomes, I don't think we'll ever be able to articulate in any sort of podcast for any sort of form exactly what he's been doing. All we can say is it's special, it's different, and we should all just appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the best thing I ever heard was an analyst. Well, I can't remember who it was to credit them, but one time said that what Coach Reid does with the Chiefs organization, it's a teaching hospital. You know, they're able to really cultivate the culture, but also making sure that everyone would be able to survive on their own and be able to make things go. And I thought that was a really good analogy, but it also has to do with the fact that you have a guy that you can trust like Patrick Mahomes, who can lead your locker room, go in there. I even remember that was a discussion about Josh Allen too. Is he able to really get the respect of his locker room? And this is no knock on him, because I actually sing his praises a lot. I think he's a great quarterback as well. But just Mahomes did that from his rookie season on. You know, he really learned under Alex Smith and then took that as a role of balancing humility and respect at the same time.
Yeah.
As we all know who have grown up playing team sports, it's hard to do that, especially when the freshman's starting over the senior.
Yep.
And this was, I think I can credit him so much. And I think a lot of people don't see that behind the scenes and how much he puts effort into making sure that every single person in that locker room feels, whether they have 2 snaps or 100, if they're a part of, they're a part of this.
It's a great way of putting it. And I've said this before. I love that Patrick Mahomes is confirming things that they're cliches, but things that I honestly, wholeheartedly to my core believe are true because of what I've experienced. And I'm not compared to NFL, but I've been on 3 championship teams growing up, and all of those teams had something in common, in that the culture was there. Like, we weren't all best friends, but in that moment and to this day, like, it's a baseball team that I played on, Central Missouri. We won a national championship. 20 years later, something happens with anyone on that team, and they call any of us, we're going to be there. That's just how that team is. And that culture is hard to explain, but when you have it, it's real and it's genuine. And what we saw with Patrick Mahomes wasn't this disingenuine, I'm going to step in and I'm the quarterback, so I'm going to prove to be a leader with words and act. Like, he just goes in and he's himself. And people just gravitate towards it because, yes, he's immensely talented, but the way he carries himself, the way that he's carrying himself in meetings, and the way that he prepares, and that he learned it from Alex Smith. He is always studying what they are going to do in practice the night before. Right. So when he shows up at practice, he knows exactly what's going on. Does he need to tell everybody, hey, I know what's going on? Or do you just kind of sit back and you're like, he always is on top of things and knows what's going on. That culture is why they're winning. It is setting it up is why they're winning. And you look at other places where they have all the talent in the world. I can't say for certain what's going on, but you look at like Cincinnati, and we dunk on Cincinnati, but you've got a quarterback that had a career year, almost like a 2018 Patrick Mahomes season, not quite to that level. But you look at Joe Burrow, that unbelievable season. Jamar Chase, unbelievable season. Trey Hendrickson, unbelievable season. And we get Andy Reid, but what's going on inside that locker room where they can't win some of those close, they can't get over that hump, whereas the Chiefs, they're all bought in. And I believe the culture, hard to quantify, I think this is where it shows.
Yeah, I think it's intangible, number one, but it also goes to show that the greatest talented, the most talented roster in the NFL isn't entitled to Super Bowl win. And it really comes down to how you're able. There's so many life lessons.
Say the right 53.
Still, sweet. There you go. But it's one of those things where you really can't pinpoint exactly why. They call it the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes effect. And I think it really isn't rooted in the two of them being so on the same page about everything.
Yeah. And Do the Chiefs win this game without Juju Smith-Schuster coming up with 2 short catches for 60 yards total? One was 31, one was 29 yards. Xavier Worthy, we'll get into some more of this, but as we move on, that's where I'm going to jump back. And I wholeheartedly do feel bad. It was weird last night, and Ken asked me how I felt on the post game. Because we've done this so much that all I'm filled with is gratitude that we get to experience this when there's 19 other NFL franchises that have not been to as many Super Bowls as Patrick Mahomes will have been to, and a lot of other players on the Chiefs, not to just single him out. But a couple of years ago, like when they beat Cincinnati, there was vitriol. Like there was like a hatred between the teams and the player. The players get into it, and the fans kind of follow the players' lead. And when Josh Allen does nothing but wax poetic on Patrick Mahomes when he has an audience,
it's not
Patrick Mahomes. They're, I would say, friends. I don't know they're hanging out and all that, but like there is a genuine mutual respect between that I believe you can tell is 100% authentic. And it was hard last night because I had no animosity. I feel bad for Bills fans. I think, and Patrick said, like, I'm sorry it had to be us again. I'm like, I'm sorry we've become that team that 4 years in a row has ended the franchise of a franchise with a history that, granted, we had the one Super Bowl way back when. But other than that, like, and granted, we didn't lose 4 Super Bowls in a row, but we lost 8 playoff games in a row in brutal fashion. So in some ways, I understand Bills fans, and I hate that we're the villain for them because they've done nothing themselves to earn. I don't care if Deion Dawkins called themselves America's. He's not being disrespectful to us. They're supporting their own team. But like, last night when Ken asked me, how do you feel? I couldn't say anything because, again, it's all gratitude and appreciation. But I saw this stat from David Hellman from Fox Sports on X. So dating back to 1972, NFL teams that have scored 4 touchdowns and committed 0 turnovers in a playoff game are 85-6. The Bills' last 2 playoff losses at Arrowhead are 2 of the 6. That is, you're playing clean, good football. And there's some plays, the margin of error, but it's not enough to beat just a team that is just a little bit better and does a little bit more in these moments.
I was thinking about this morning and how different maybe Patrick Mahomes' couple of first seasons here in the league would be if Tom Brady hadn't have left New England. Because then Mahomes would have had to gone through for 3 more seasons, had to beat Tom Brady to advance to the Super Bowl. Think of how different. This is no knock on Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying he couldn't have, but that would have been his barrier for 3 more years. How different would that have shaped the beginning of his career? Josh Allen, not knocking him as a quarterback at all, but he has to go. I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's playing in the AFC and he happens to be playing at the same time that Patrick Mahomes is playing. He has to get through him every single time for any chance of getting to the Super Bowl. If Mahomes wasn't here, Josh Allen would have been in the Super Bowl, I think, at least 2 times.
Yeah. Or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Or even Joe Burrow.
Sure.
There once. In a game that I think they're probably replaying it.
But it's the same storyline,
All right, I got one. That one got tough.
I remember when Mahomes was playing, I was like, damn, it really sucks that he's playing the same time Brady's playing.
Yeah.
Because he could go off, but he happened to have, go to Tampa and keep going.
And you love there to be some parity, unless it's weird. And then you're just happy that your team continues to win. So again, not going to apologize for it, but not necessarily going to dunk on a team that I've got a lot of respect for them. They're fans. I have friends who are Bills fans. Always been cool and respectful. Bills fans as a fan base do some special things. I know Tucker's got some feelings. We've talked about the
I like them.
And there's the money, but they're good people and they mean well. How it comes from. They mean well and feel for them. And at some point, whenever they get a chance, they get past it, I will be rooting for Buffalo.
100%.
Just because I can imagine.
Had Buffalo won last night, I would have been cheering them on like
100%.
Crazy during the Super Bowl.
100%. Not rooting. All right, let's move on.
Never.
Let's do one more and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
Xavier Worthy. Let's talk about him having his moment.
Yeah.
He's talked about it after the game. He's got a little chip on his shoulder saying, they passed on me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're talking about the trade, but it was against the team that decided to let the Chiefs draft him. That Xavier Worthy earned the first touchdown of his inaugural postseason with an 11-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes to put the Chiefs up 14-10 with 4 minutes left in the first half, where they helped move the Chiefs offense down the field on that drive, tallying 3 catches, including that touchdown on the 11-play, 70-yard scoring drive. With his first postseason touchdown, Worthy now owns the most touchdowns from scrimmage by a rookie wide receiver in franchise history with 10. Totaled 101 scrimmage yards in Sunday's game with a team high 6 catches for a game high 85 receiving yards with 1 receiving touchdown, 2 carries for 16 yards. He's just the 9th rookie in NFL history to have 100 or more scrimmage yards in the postseason.
Did you, when you first saw this draft pick, and I'll say my tidbit on it too, would you have ever imagined Xavier Worthy to do as well and to have also the workload that he has in his rookie season?
I don't know about the workload, and I think a lot of that, I mean, obviously Rashee Rice suspended, the Hollywood Brown injury. I don't think they expected him. It was kind of a trial by fire early in it.
Yeah.
We talked about it a lot, where it wasn't the production in the box score, because that's just dependent on the game flow. Mm-hmm. For me, it was the way in which he was being utilized with all the pre-snap motion, all of the different things. They were putting a lot on his plate on where to line up, the motions, the crazy stuff in the backfield where he's going back and forth. I didn't expect that, but if you would have told me that they drafted a first-round wide receiver that put up good numbers, I wouldn't have been surprised, and especially with the postseason. I've come to expect that somebody is going to have a huge... And like the Super Bowl, it could be Justin Watson. Am I going to be surprised if Justin Watson has 2 touchdowns and 70 yards with 8 catches in the Super Bowl?
Sure.
No. That's just kind of how things have gone. They're not going to force feed. This is not, even to some extent, Philly, where, the offense is always going to go through Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae. They got talent. Don't get me wrong. But, you play the Bengals, the ball in a big situation is going to Jamar Chase. You just can't stop it. With the Chiefs, the ball is going to whoever the defense dictates it should go to, because he's going to make the right decision. And he trusts those guys to make plays, which is probably why everybody loves playing for Mahomes. And I know there's been some discourse on social media about DeAndre Hopkins only playing 18% of the snaps, and if that's a problem. DeAndre Hopkins seemed pretty happy after the game.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Hopkins and the coaching staff will know better than anyone else what those 18% of the snaps he's on the field for, how comfortable he is with those plays, that Patrick Mahomes wants him to be where he's supposed to be. No one cares.
No. Hopkins was in his mind, traded away for pennies.
He does not.
The guy is happy to be on a route to be able to go to the Super Bowl and get a ring like he deserves.
So,
but
to answer your question, I'm not terribly surprised he had a big game. The totality of the season, not what I expected from
Sure, I think that's a good way to say it.
Did step up because he needed to, but having a big game in the playoffs, I honestly, if you would have asked before in the context of, if you had to write a script for who would just have a big game against Buffalo, I would have said Xavier Worthy because they traded for him. And that's just kind of how the Chiefs do. Just kind of how the script goes and how these things work.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I just remember his first touchdown, getting the first touchdown of the regular season against the Ravens, and how much they, the trash talk that the Ravens do, and what they said specifically about how he's so small, they'll easily be able to handle him. And then for him to start his season like that, take the workload on like a champ, really take it to the chin. It was a lot to ask of a rookie. And then continue to be able to do this, gaining Patrick Mahomes' trust. I've seen nothing but really positive things out of him. I hope his sophomore year is just as good. With Rashee Rice, hopefully it just adds to what they're able to do.
There's going to be a lot of time to talk about the offseason. What the Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, or free agents, Rashee Rice, and maybe an impending suspension. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to lend itself to being very interesting. But the one thing you can count on now is Xavier Worthy.
Right.
Can handle more if you need. And I think the other beautiful thing was his biggest play in that game was the exact kind of play that nobody would have been upset if he didn't make. Throwing a 50-50 jump ball and having him taken away from a defensive back isn't what his game is. You know whose game that is? Keon Coleman. It is the 50-50 jump ball, long arm receiver who, let's not dunk on him. I actually like Keon Coleman.
But you make a good point. You wouldn't think that's the one it comes down with.
Yeah, for him to make the play that
fight for the ball back,
because he wasn't the type of receiver that Buffalo wanted, and our guy made that play. It's a beautiful thing. Let's take a quick break, and we come back. We're going to talk about Steve Spagnuolo and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll be right back.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 10 Things, and BJ Kissel hanging out with Hayley Lewis. If you wonder where we are in Dallas, or Frisco, technically. Frisco, Texas. The East
Sailors are two different
suburbs.
We know that.
City. But we are down here for the East-West Shrine Bowl. We come down here every year. If this is your first time watching, this is why we're in a different place, but we have plenty of NFL draft content. I think we did 25 one-on-one interviews with players, sit-down interviews, and you got more players than that for social content. The lyric one was awesome. By the way, it is good. When's that posting?
I think Joel just put it out today, so it should be on today.
Check ATFN Instagram and Facebook for a lot of fun content with a number of the prospects here. It's getting fun for us. The East-West Ramble has taken care of us, obviously getting 26 interviews between 10 and 20 minutes. We've been able to sit down with these people and all these players. And over the years, we've had at least 2 Chiefs draft picks every year that we've interviewed. So we'll have plenty of draft content. We'll probably sit on those interviews till around the combine, start releasing the KCSN draft show. That's because, most of our audience is thinking about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that way, not necessarily draft, but one of the things I'm proud about with KC Sports that we're on top of it.
Yeah, they have a lot of
draft
fun
content
too.
is very good because we do things like this, rubbing elbows with scouts and talking with people down here. Maddie, Craig, Kent, they've been studying these guys for months. It's like Christmas for them.
Well, it's great to get them before they're really media trained, and also before they can refuse an interview, And so it's
Just
perfect.
nice.
Yeah, they're being nice. They're telling you things. They're being personable, and also it's nice that a lot of them, I think, they really learn how to have a trusting relationship, which is a good thing too.
And maybe the best compliment, that's not what the show's about at all, but one of my favorite compliments I've ever gotten about KCSN, I got this week. And it was from Jave, who's helping out with the East-West Ramble, and she's been awesome bringing players for us. But she said, you guys make the players feel so comfortable when they get down, compared to other people. And there's new media that doesn't have a lot of time, a lot of experience working with players here. But to know how much she's been doing this 4 years now, she brings the players. She's like, you can just tell they're comfortable with you guys. You sit down, the guys watch the film, they know who these players are. It's just been a lot of fun. And that was a great compliment to know that players have, not necessarily going to remember us, but somewhat of a positive experience, even in the short time that we cross paths. And we've seen it with a few of the guys that they remember us once they get drafted. We saw it with Keandre Coburn. We saw it with, I think, BJ Thompson had noticed and recognized it as well. Maybe Carson Steele.
You guys talked with Isaiah Pacheco too, didn't you?
That was years ago. That was OG.
Is that not wild to say that was years ago? I mean, the kid's now going to his 3rd Super Bowl, 3 years in the league.
The interview that I wish we had on cam was the Brock Purdy conversation, because he was not preparing to play professional football. We were getting ready to record with him. And we were just like, hey, congrats on the process. What's your plan? He's like, I don't even know if I'm going to get drafted. I'm just going through it because it's a cool experience. And as would be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL as soon as he gets his payday. But let's move on and talk about Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, let's get to
We
that.
have not talked about Spags yet, and that is a disservice, and I'm sorry that it's taken us this long. But after a Buffalo score shortly before halftime, the Bills elected to go for a 2-point conversion. And Bills wide receiver Curtis Samuel's rush was stopped at the 1-yard line by the Chiefs' strong defensive front for an unsuccessful 2-point try, keeping the score at 21-16 with the Chiefs leading at half. Later, the Bills were able to add a score on the first drive coming out of half and elected for another 2-point try. The Chiefs' defense was able to sack Josh Allen for another failed 2-point attempt to keep the Chiefs at a 1-point deficit at 22-21. Obviously, a big moment in this game, but no bigger moment. And I think probably what will go down as one of the greatest defensive calls in postseason history was sending a corner blitz on 4th and 5 and sending Trent McDuffie because of the mesh rub route concept that they ran. It was the perfect call in the perfect situation. Just as Matt Derrick would once say, hanging onions. And what he did with that call, there's no other way to put it. He was already a legend. There was already legendary status, but the credit he's getting to make the perfect call in the perfect situation, it's the perfect play. He should be the first coordinator inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he has a great argument for it too. And I remember when he came here, taking the overhaul that he did in the 2019 season. And then it was almost like a little bit of pushback because fans were pissed that the Chiefs defense was still not getting better. And I think it was till about a little bit after Halloween, maybe the first couple weeks in November, all of a sudden it started clicking. It's because he has such a deep playbook. And a lot of players have alluded to that too. They said, this is one of the hardest playbooks that I've ever had to learn. But once you can do it, second nature without even thinking quick, it is so effective. And you see that year after year, the team, the personnel that he brings in and how he continues to do so. Now it's almost as if this defense is finally, and last year, really hitting their stride. And this year, it's just adding to it, picking up where they are. And to have the postseason process down like they do, not being freaked out in those huge moments, having the confidence to do gutsy things like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of credit that goes to him for a guy who is so humble.
Yeah. That's the best
And
part.
doesn't take it, you know.
He's an easy guy to talk to. I crossed paths him the last year that I worked there. And he was so helpful and respectful in asking football. I mean, one of the best defensive coordinators, Mount Rushmore defensive coordinators in NFL history. And for somebody like myself doesn't understand football even close to anything at that level, to ask him simple football. I'll never forget asking him just simple football questions and being kind of apprehensive, being like, he's going to make me feel stupid for trying to understand this. And he didn't.
Yeah,
he's
good about that.
People at that level respect the fact that you're trying to learn a game that they've made their lives. And it doesn't need to be any more than that. There's no ego when asking because they see you're genuinely asking. And Steve Spagnuolo is perfect for that. There's a reason that people talk about him the way that they do, as far as how he treats people. His wife making food for everybody in the building. It's such a cool, special culture. That when you have it, you just want to bottle it up and not let it go.
Now he's got Taylor Swift making him Pop-Tarts. You know, what a life this guy's lived. I talked to him 2 seasons ago, and kind of the same thing. It was right after, I think it was I can't remember because all these years run together, right? Like the second year for the 2022 draft class. And I was talking, hey, did you think they were going to be this good? Did you really think they would be able to come in? And, you know, this is George Karlaftis. This is Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson picking up where a lot of other players have struggled in this scheme. And he was like, well, you never know. That's the risk that you run. But he said within a few practices, he could tell that their football IQ was so high that they were able to pick it up. And I can't even imagine the conversations they have in those meeting rooms.
I think he did famously say at like training camp that he prefer veteran defensive backs. He made a comment once.
Might have.
Nodding. He made something about like not wanting young guys. So what did Brad Veach do? He drafted like an entire like rookie secondary and gave it to them. And it's funny because there was the old like adage that never judge a Spags defense before Halloween.
Yeah.
Because just throw everything against the wall and then figure out what they were good at. And then after Thanksgiving, they would just kind of focus and kind of hone in on the things that they knew that worked. And now they've done it for so many years, and he's got the same crew because they were all rookies, so they could stay around for 4 or 5 years before they leave, or churning through different people every year that they don't have to wait till Halloween anymore. They can just be good from the beginning. That's what we saw last year with the number they were putting up. Another guy that was very good that deserves his flowers. And these are the stories that are special because we can talk about Patrick Mahomes. We can talk about Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, even Xavier Worthy. Let's talk about Nico Remigio having another career day. I don't know.
Man, that kid.
With under 4 minutes left until halftime, Remigio returned a punt 41 yards to the Buffalo 34-yard line, which the Chiefs then capitalized 6 plays later with Patrick Mahomes punching into the end zone to move the score at 21-10. And after setting his 63-yard kick return record last week in the divisional game, which is also the third longest kick return postseason game in franchise history.
Oh.
Remigio set a personal career postseason record with his 41-yard punt return, the 4th longest postseason punt return in franchise history. His 41 total punt return yards in Sunday's game ranks 5th most punt return yards in a postseason game in team history. Bring up all of that, not a household name for most Chiefs fans, but Nico Remigio has also been one of those guys that's trained with Patrick Mahomes in the offseason that you see videos of him and the rest of the guys out there working, which means when he's out there making a play, being somebody that fans don't know, somebody that his teammates have been working with, where he's on the practice squad, not getting his opportunity, putting the time in so when he gets his moment, he can capitalize it, and then we can sit here and try and get people to remember the name of somebody that when his name was called, he stepped up and made a play, which is why the Chiefs are in the position.
Right. UDFA, who comes into training camp hoping that he could, potentially be a part of the wide receiving core. And that's always one of the storylines, as you know, going into training camp. Andy Reid only takes 7. Andy Reid only has ever taken 6. It changes every year, the narrative. And I remember Dave Tobe talked about him, the special teams coordinator for the Chiefs, so highly. And he goes, I'm rooting for that kid. I really am rooting for that kid because he comes in every single day and gives just the highest caliber that he's able to put out. We've continued to see him step up when he's been needed, when they have injuries. And then for him against the Texans, right, that kickoff, right as they start the game, sets the tone, picks it up, puts the Chiefs in the red zone. and then continues to do. I thought he was hurt for a little bit there when he got caught when he was trying to hurdle one of the players.
Yep.
Which really worried me because he's again and on the return game, that's something that's kind of been iffy for this team. They lose McCole Hardman. The returner, 2 seasons past was always going to be Kadarius Toney. That didn't pan out for the Chiefs. And then Carson Steele, Samaje Perine kind of split that role, and he's really been able to honestly, I think this season give the Chiefs the best back there. And I mean, special teams is such a huge part of this game, and we saw that yesterday.
Nico Remio is a perfect example, and Samaje Perine's another one catching the pass at the end.
Oh yeah, I know.
Justin Watson won
with that.
I'm doing it now. I'm excited to keep talking about like Nico Remio because in 20 years, when we're all sitting around old and talking with our friends, I'm sitting around.
Let's not be old and shitty.
Super old. I just had a birthday.
Tucker will
I don't celebrate birthdays for him. He's getting older. But like Nico, he's going to be the perfect, like we're sitting around and just playing like that. Remember this and remember this. Remember this guy. Like Nico is going to be like that perfect guy. Like remember that name. He's in 20 years and you're sitting around talking about all the special moments during this dynasty stretch. You're going to bring those up. It's like Daniel Swartzen tackled Justin Reed.
We'll never forget that.
Started everything. I will never stop talking about that moment because it, for me, is when it all started. Like, was never not confident in that game because they were going to put up like 50 points. I was like, 21.
I was concerned in that game.
21. I think like the first quarter is like the Chiefs are going to score 21 points in this game. Like, not that it wasn't worried, but like it's going to take more than that. So there's a lot of ball game left. But yeah, just all right. Let's check PFF numbers because
you'll have to do that. I let my computer die because I'll be honest. Last night after the game, I went in there and I was like, I'm gonna go to bed because all the yahoos were being yahoos out here, and I ended up rewatching the game.
Very yahoo-y.
The pool jumping. I did not jump in the pool. BJ did not. Tucker did.
I got an email I actually really appreciated that was like, "You're calming and fun."
Oh my god, that's bad.
It was not on their level.
I ended up watching it again, and I fell asleep during the third quarter, so it died. So that's why it's plugged in.
We did rewatch the entire game last night.
Oh, you did out here? Oh,
we did. And Craig went to sleep first. Tracks.
By the end of it, they were all
in the pool. They got in to jump in the pool.
Taking lemon shots.
You were there. Awake.
I was awake. Yeah.
I was not going to jump in the pool. I actually felt the pool. Got a few days ago, and I knew better.
It was not warm.
Maddie did not.
How was the pool, Maddie? Fantastic. Says the ice bath.
Yeah, I was gonna say he just soaked. Like I thought you. Actually, when I touched it, I was like, "Well, Maddie's gonna work out. He's got his ice bath." Exactly what I said. All right, let's look at some PFF numbers. Defensively, not a huge surprise. The highest graded player for the Chiefs, according to PFF, Chris Jones.
Okay.
A 90.6 overall grade. 8 total pressures in this game. And I think at one point it said on the broadcast, somebody had been charting that on his first 11 one-on-one snaps, he had 7 pressures.
Wow.
Which was, I believe, all in the first half that he early in this game. And maybe that's why I felt so comfortable throughout it, is that offensively they were scheming guys wide open with the RPO stuff. They spent a lot of time talking around the post-game show, but everything looked kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Bills, when they made plays, they were phenomenal plays, but it was taking like a absolute perfect throw, a perfect catch. Everything had to be the Chiefs were making them earn everything that they were doing in a big way. The other top players graded by the Chiefs for the Chiefs defense, according to PFF, Justin Reed finished with an 80.1 grade. Leo Chanel, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, George Karlaftis, and then actually Najee Johnson at number 6.
Really?
Najee Johnson, very high coverage grade, allowing, looks like he's targeted twice, allowed just 1 reception.
Down the stretch there, it did not feel like that.
It didn't feel like it. I can only remember the tackle that he missed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to him, but that's the play that stands out. And then Jaden Hicks, I do want to mention, because I said last night that it seemed like to me, at least on the plays that I watched, that he came down and made some nice tackle. It ended up being like a 6-yard gain, but felt like it could have been more. And then a safety comes. It's one of those, like, you see somebody flying to the screen, you don't know who it is, and they're taken down. But Jaden Hicks finished with, I believe, the second highest tackling grade, only to Drew Tranquil in this game, for the Chiefs defense. And then offensively, top players, Xavier Worthy, number 1 with a 90.1 grade. Then Juju Smith-Schuster, Joe Tooney, at left
It
tackle.
is so odd we didn't talk about him all game.
It's not
No, I mean, that's a good point.
solid.
The fact that we
Got
didn't, it wasn't a point to talk
Justin
about.
Watson, Patrick Mahomes round out the top 5 graded offensive targets for the Chiefs. I am gonna real quick look up pass blocking. So many rushers. Joe Tooney.
Incredible job. Also, one call on Mike Caliendo. Were there any other offensive, if you guys remember, jump in, any other offensive line penalties besides that one on Mike Caliendo? We didn't hear Jawan Taylor.
Chiefs offense allowed 2 quarterback hits, just 7 pressures.
Oh, wow.
In the entire game. And Joe Tooney did not allow.
What a difference. 2 sacks on Mahomes yesterday was the...
This says 1 sack, and that was given up to Caliendo. That's when he got picked up.
Okay, gotcha.
Into the backfield. That will be a storyline over the next couple weeks, talking about the offensive line for the Chiefs against the Eagles. Very formidable defensive line. Plenty of time to get through that, but yeah, those are the PFF grades for the Chiefs, and there's been a lot. Nobody's probably benefited more from a media standpoint what the Chiefs are doing. The Kansas City hometown kid Nick Wright, just kind of been a thought leader, a take leader. He's a take guy in this space, but it's beautifully done as somebody that understands all of us that have been Chiefs fans for a long time understand the angst and like where he's coming from on so many of these things. But I had never heard this, and it bothers me as a baseball guy that I'd never heard of this reference, and I want to give him credit for it. But he said that what's happening between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes is a modern-day Babe Ruth, that the Boston Red Sox traded Babe Ruth to the Yankees, and they were fully to blame. What happened afterwards. Yeah. So Patrick Mahomes is only in Kansas City because the Buffalo Bills allowed him to be in Kansas City, which probably makes it even harder for the Bills. And it was Doug Whaley, it was a different GM, it was a different regime. But as an organization, as a fan base, they know that they allowed this. It's to happen. So that was a very good reference that I hadn't heard. At least I personally hadn't heard yet. That I thought was kind of right on the money.
I love, as much as people think that he is insufferable, I love his takes because especially
for us because we understand it.
Well, true. But I also do like the fact that he was, locally in Kansas City working in the media and then able to transition. And yeah, he might be labeled a homer in some of the national media light, but he does make such good. Yeah, it is. But
he's a take guy. He doesn't have to be he's not Adam Schefter. He's not pretending to be a journalist.
But he does make very intelligent takes and references, though. So again, it does make a lot of sense. I like that analogy. I want to use that analogy now.
You just got to get credit.
Yeah. Well, I'll do that because I'm a good journalist. Let's talk about the not good journalists complaining about the refs.
We already did, but
the ethics.
I put this out there. It's going to be fun and interesting. I've said it a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how the narratives around who covered the Chiefs during this run and how they covered them. Mm-hmm. These things aren't nobody forget. It was 5, 6, 7 years ago now that Mike Florio made the comment about the 49ers should hit Mahomes late. And he was never going to cover the NFL if Tyreek Hill was still with the Chiefs. He made a lot of comments, and Chiefs fans have never forgot that.
Yeah. That's
the same vein of what Schefter's done, and years later, fans are still letting him have it about it. So Chiefs fans are never going to forget this, and I will be very tuned in all throughout free agency. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, following all KCSN, because we will let you know, and we will be much more intentional about who is breaking national news for the Chiefs, and whether Adam Schefter can get a confirmation from anybody on the Chiefs, or whether he even seeks out multiple confirmations like a journalist should.
Maybe Ian will start getting that more, or Tom, or maybe Jeremy Fowler might be at he has insights with
your Schwagers. Probably get.
Yeah, there you go.
Gonna get some stuff.
Who's gonna talk?
Well, there are multiple ways to get around it, but will anyone with the Chiefs confirm Schefter's thoughts and how do they feel? I'm not gonna say publicly, but I have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it's not good. I've seen a few of those, and I'm sure you know who too. Media members who have done some suspect things like that, and
especially
the relationships don't end well.
You have a platform like he does, you can't afford to cross lines and be wrong, and you think somebody around him be like, I don't know if you should do this, but you might not have those people.
Well, he has been popping off lately. I mean, have you seen that where he's been going back at people lately? Maybe it's just a new
well, he's got a lot of practice.
New shtick he's trying. There you go.
Several years. A lot of people that were unhappy that Chiefs won, but yeah, outside of that, it's just the disingenuine part of it. People can be against the Chiefs. They root for the Eagles, say the Bills are going to win. They can give all their takes, but when you're blatantly disingenuous, that's a problem. We're going to skip number. We've talked about the refs. See, we don't need to get into a lot of that. Plenty of information, and I do think you could check out Seth Kaiser's thread on social media because Deion Dawkins was jumping early. The right guard jumped early for the Bills on some play. Like there were the face mask penalty that was missed. There's plenty of calls that were missed on both sides.
I think Tom Martin put that out too. He put a bunch of stuff. Like a few people did. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. But yeah, there's a lot of people who have pointed that out. But then I think the argument that goes back to it is they always keep saying, well, okay, yeah, but the things that happen that go in the Chiefs' favor are in crucial moments that would change the game. And it's like, I mean, the Bills could have scored more points. That's one way they could have won.
Well, luckily, there's also
they had almost 4 fumbles.
Content creators that have shrunk it down to high game, overtime calls going against them, and those numbers don't add up. Yeah, things a lot more than anywhere else. And then when you watch the film of them, it's Patrick Mahomes getting clotheslined. Like a most egregious penalty, like they're playing in the 70s again. Let's move on to number 10, and then we'll wrap this thing up. This is a fun one just because he's one of my favorite players ever, and I like him. Colin Saunders on social media. And to some extent, Juan Thornhill is getting some heat right now, too, because he tweeted. I'll explain it. So here's what Colin Saunders said, probably in response to fans of their current teams being upset that they're rooting on the Chiefs. So y'all got to understand, for guys like myself, the Cheetah, Willie Gay, Snead, others that have moved on from the Chiefs, we still want to see them do good because at the end of the day, this shit is history we are witnessing, and we are a part of that. So yes, whenever I ain't in, it's Casey. When I ain't in it, it's Casey.
Yeah.
Juan Thornhill had I think it was on TikTok or a screenshot from another platform that was on X that said like, should have been there, like shaking my
should have been playing today.
Should have been playing today like that. And somebody quote tweeted and said like, what are you talking about? Like a diehard Browns fan. Just like, you're exhausted. Like, I hate. How can he not have that sort of feeling of missing being there? Like I worked, like I wasn't playing, like I was there and I missed part of it, but I got to hang out with our people, people we love and care about. So like it's all love coming from Colin and those people, and I hate that that's where we are today. That there can't be, everything's got to be everything. Everything's got to be like
one way or the other.
One way or another, looking for reasons to get upset very quickly instead of just having like a human response of like, he's friends with these guys.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he want the best for them? I don't understand it.
Humanity. That's your lie.
Humanity.
That's what it comes down to. But yeah, I saw some of those. I saw Willie Gay's tweet. I saw that there was a little controversy with something that Tyreek put out. I don't know. Did you see that?
I didn't see it, Tyreek.
Someone said that he like put out a tweet of I don't know who it was, but it's a GIF, and he goes, like after a certain call. But it is what it is.
Trying to get social clout. Like it's so easy and it's addictive. A lot of people, and I don't know if that's what it was, but
the argument for the other guys, how can you share a locker room with these guys? They're some of your best friends. They're like family. You spend holidays together. Your family spend holidays together. You win. You go on the biggest stages together. That's a connection that you're never going to get rid of. That would be like
made by the most famous together.
You would, it's silly to get mad at someone for cheering on basically another sibling to go do well. Are people going to get pissed at Jason Kelce now that he likes to support the Chiefs? I mean, he's going to be in a dilemma coming up.
That didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, he's going to have to figure out which fan base to cheer for. Poor mother's got to do the back-to-back jersey again.
No, does she still have to root for the Eagles?
I don't know. Does she?
No.
I don't know. I don't know the rules.
I think so. She has to.
Tucker, wasn't Taylor Swift from Philly, like an original Philly fan? There's another dilemma. Yes.
It's almost like it.
We'll do it. I'm bummed it's the Eagles, but it is what it is.
Well, thank you for watching, listening, and supporting us here at KC Sports Network. If you like it, stay here, look around at all the other content. We've got plenty more for you. The lab guys were sitting on the stairs right there, probably waiting to come eat or do something. They don't want to be in the background of the show right here, but they will be going live tonight to break it all down. Haley?
I got, Chiefs News Daily today. We're going to go through the highlights and then get you a lot of, if you want to listen to post-game sound, we're going to have a lot of that. So
there we go. So we appreciate, again, you supporting us and supporting us something different down here in Dallas, but we'll be heading back to Kansas City and getting you all prepared for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans between the Chiefs and Eagles as the Chiefs look to cement the fact that they are the greatest dynasty and no fan base in the history of the sport has ever had it better than we do right. So thank you for watching and supporting us. Tell a friend about KCSN over the next couple of weeks. We appreciate it and catch you next time.